Throw the slack, you fucking moron!
I don't have friends. I got family.
Hi, and welcome to Screen Share, a movie podcast about jumping a car onto a boat. My name's Calder. Hello, who's there?
Adam.
And this is a movie podcast about Too Fast, Too Furious, the 2003
It would have been so good if it came out 2002.
addition to the Fast and Furious franchise, starring Paul Walker and Tyrese, directed by John Singleton. Adam,
Yes.
how are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Yeah? What are you drinking on there? Just a little bit of milk?
You gave me a little drink here entitled Uptown Cocktails, chocolatini alcoholic beverage made with real cream.
Yeah.
13.9% alcohol. Shake well. Didn't do that. So maybe that's why it tastes so shit.
That could be it.
It doesn't taste like shit. It's just strong.
Yeah, it's very strong.
We took a little break to play some video games, and every time I took a sip, I could not help but go, oh. So,
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
This is...
unless you want to sponsor us, then it's really good.
They're not going to sponsor us. This movie was released after the successful The Fast and the Furious film.
Yeah.
It was kind of a rush job. Coming
This
out
one?
came out 2 years after the first one. And they only realized they should make another after
The first
the first one did well.
Yeah.
But this movie did equally as well, I'd say.
Okay.
The budget was $76 million, so it had a bigger budget. And you can kind of tell
A little bit.
there's some bigger stunts, obviously jumping the car onto the boat, the cars jumping off the bridge.
There's more cars.
There's more cars. There's more sets and destinations. There's a few bigger kind of stars. There's a child running through my hallway.
That's okay.
But it ended up making $235 million.
What?
And now, here's the thing I'm tracking as we go through these films. The domestic to international split on this one is 50-50.
Really?
Yeah. So a little more international play on this film. This one's set in Miami because there are a couple vibrant street racing scenes in the U.S.
L.A., Miami.
And I guess New York, where it's but Miami's much more in the L.A. vein, where it's a party. The cars are bright and colorful and kind of foreign too, because foreign cars are always a little more showy.
Yeah.
But it's, some would consider it the weakest entry into the franchise.
This one?
Yes.
Really? Interesting.
It's one of them. Tokyo Drift has had some revisionist history. And also this is a more, that's, I guess, a bit of a dated opinion because it doesn't take Hobbs and Shaw and Fast X into account. But
Okay.
when it was just kind of Fast and the Furious to F7, Furious 7, it was this one's the weakest one.
Well, I feel similarly in Star Wars, for a while it was accepted Phantom Menace was the worst one. And then people, I think, realized, wait a second, it might be Attack of the Clones, actually.
Yeah.
And then, so Attack of the Clones has been the bad one for a while. But, people are just starting to enter the conversation of, okay, are some of the new ones worse?
Yeah.
Particularly Rise of Skywalker. So, I think, as time passes, it's hard to consider one the best one in the franchise or the worst one in the franchise when it's the new one.
Yeah.
So, as time passes, we'll
Unless
see how
it's
everything
abominable.
lays, but,
Yeah. This one was decently well reviewed. Not great, obviously. Because it is the thing about this movie is there's some interesting and fun things in this movie.
yeah.
But it's there's nothing super special to me about it. And there's some kind of bad performances, and there's some characters that don't really make any sense, and the plot is thin, and you're just kind of having a fun hang in Miami with
Yeah.
Tyrese and Paul Walker, which
It's a fun movie.
yeah.
But
And
like
that's-
it doesn't have the depth of relationships that the first one has.
And the Ebert film, or the Ebert review, was kind of like, this is a really fun movie. Not great, but it's really fun. Which is like, I think, the epitome of what Too Fast, Too Furious is.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, it's fun.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a good time. Like it's hard to deny like the charisma of Tyrese and then also the chemistry between Tyrese and Paul Walker.
Yeah.
But like
If that
that's
doesn't work-
kind of it.
Yeah.
Like I do feel like this movie has some like pretty great side characters. Like more
Like Suki.
yeah, Suki's pretty cool. Obviously Tej is
Tej.
great.
Yeah.
And like there's a couple others that like reappear and are pretty fun. But like the substance of the movie is kind of just like, I will say like the plot and like reasons for doing things are a little more clear in this one than the previous one. But like I
Yeah.
don't care as much.
Yeah. There's less like,
There's just
there-
dog
it's a
outside.
dog
It's
fighting
okay.
ring that they run back by the pool at my place.
Oh
It's-
wow, cool.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
You participate?
I don't got a dog in the fight.
I volunteer.
Really, you want to fight a dog?
No, that would be horrifying actually.
The way I describe these first three movies is basically like, first one's Point Break. He hates it. The second one is Miami Vice, where it's like a kind of silly cop drama about like a drug lord.
Yeah.
And then the third one is Karate Kid, where he like goes to another land to learn some sort of hidden skill of
Interesting.
drifting.
Yeah.
They're all fun. They are not the best movies.
No.
Um,
I feel like all of them have like something that is really great about them, but there's also a lot holding them back.
yeah, it's like the Pillars thing, where it's like they've got this thing, but also like this is not there, and this is not there, and this is not there, and it's like,
Yeah.
we'll get there. We're building. This is the franchise building up.
Yeah.
Where Star Wars came out kind of fully realized.
Came out swinging.
Yeah, this is kind of
And
like
then they went, shit, we got to maintain this. Whereas this is like, let's see if we can find our footing. And then they just like, kind of get there. Yeah.
and like the idea for this movie was like the franchise was going to be, we do one in this place and go to this street racing scene, and we do one in this place and do this street racing one, because they didn't really know how to tie it all together until Vin
Yeah.
came back and he was like, fine, I'll help you guys figure it out. But the original idea for this movie was Dom goes to Miami. Oh wait, no, sorry, that was Tokyo Drift. I got mixed up. The original idea was kind of like this, but Vin was in it. They offered him $25 million, but he didn't like the script. And then he made Chronicles of Riddick instead.
Nice.
Which obviously was a much
Had a
better
much better
idea.
script.
Yeah,
It had a
for
really
sure,
good
for sure, for
script, famously.
He wanted creative control over the movies, but didn't get it yet, obviously. And then didn't get creative control over XXX. So then he's kind of floundering after this, where it's like he's become this massive movie star that people like, but he's pissed himself out of every great thing that he had in his career,
Yeah.
like the Fast and Furious, XXX to an extent, but like to try and be like the shepherd of a franchise.
Yeah.
Which he later,
Which he
figured
didn't
out.
realize the franchise for him to shepherd was right in front of him the whole time.
Yeah.
But he found it.
This movie beat Finding Nemo on its first weekend at the box office, which I think is kind of funny. And then obviously
Crazy.
Nemo did better.
Yeah, sure.
I think an interesting bit of this is that they got John Singleton to direct it, who is like a very legendary director in Hollywood. He was the youngest director ever nominated for Best Director for Boys in the Hood. And then he made a couple other movies like Poetic Justice, The Shaft with Samuel L. Jackson, and then a movie with Tyrese, Baby Boy, where like, I've never seen it, but like that's kind of why Tyrese is in this movie, is because he made this movie with John Singleton before. But like the franchise, I think, had potential to be one of these ones where it's like, okay, what is this guy's take on Fast and Furious? And what is this person's take on Fast and Furious? And like, what is this person's take? Which it doesn't become, because Justin Lin becomes like the steady hand of it. But there is like a sliding doors moment where it's like, so now we're going to Mumbai to see their street racing scene, and we've got like an Indian director figuring that out, or like this other thing, because I think that would be cool and fun.
That would be cool.
But
I feel like if they were to do that, it would have to be kind of more of an anthology series.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have Dominic Toretto being like, I've traveled to 50 different countries in the past year.
Yeah.
Like, no.
It's like, it's a really fun idea, but it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that we got Miami Vice version of Fast and Furious is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And the car chases are pretty cool.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
John Singleton was inspired by like anime and stuff like that for like how he was gonna do these chases. Anyway, thoughts on the Miami of it all?
I think it's like a cool location. I think it's cool that we can kind of like explore Miami through Tyrese, because Tyrese is like, he's been on under house arrest at his trailer for like years. So he's Brian is kind of showing, what is Tyrese's character's name again? Roman,
yeah. Roman Pierce.
Yeah. Brian is kind of showing Roman like around and showing him what the culture's like, and thus kind of showing us, which is kind of cool. We don't really get much on like what Brian's been up to since the last one, aside from like not being a cop anymore.
I didn't show you that little short film. Basically, what happens in it is Brian takes a road trip across America, hooks up with Minka Kelly. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
You'd probably recognize her. And then ends up in Miami. And it's all silent with horrible music. And he's like acting out shit to like police officers and like on the run. It's not good. He basically, between that time, has just been on the run.
Cool.
I guess pretty basic.
Because
like,
he's wanted from the police, or by the police,
yeah,
for
because
like
he let Dom
letting Dom go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like, all right, relax, you know?
I will say, what's the character's name? Bilkins. Because Bilkins was in the first one.
Yeah.
And he did not like Brian.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in this one again, and he kind of likes Brian.
Yeah.
Because, like, they kind of have, like, I think he, like, just respects him. Because it's like, okay, maybe, like, we don't agree on a lot, but, like, I appreciate that you, like, stand strong in, like, your morals, basically. Mm-hmm. So Bilkins kind of, like, gets, like, strikes up a deal with Brian to, like, what's the main bad guy's name?
Oh, it's something that it shouldn't be, because Cole Hauser is a white man. Let me look it up for you.
Okay.
But they want to catch the drug lord because, like,
they're basically trying
lord.
to like catch him in the act of smuggling money over for drugs.
Carter Verone.
Yeah, Verone. Yeah. Who's like, he's great as a bad guy. Like, he's a bad guy. But like, basically Bilkins gets Brian on to do it. He's gonna do it with this like other cop, and then he's like, looking at my Nissan Skyline, what kind of a fucking whatever the fuck would you put in it? And he's like, he doesn't know.
To his partner, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy's like, this, and he's like,
would you rather have a 16-inch or a 18-inch Big Gulp or whatever? This is a bad example.
Sure.
Because he bases it off the pizza place that the guy's got a drink of.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh, probably 16-inch. He's like, I didn't know pizza places made turbochargers. I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's basically like, sets them up, so he's like, if I'm gonna do this for you guys, I want to choose my partner. And like, in my first watch, like when I watched with you, I thought it was going to be like, I want Dominic Toretto.
Yeah.
But instead it's like it introduces Roman Pierce, who I think is a really fun character. He's more fun in the second half because in the first half he's very like grumpy.
He's like, fuck you, Brian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like then they start to like bond more and more, and he starts to let his guard down a bit, and it's a bit better.
Yeah, I think all of that is very fair. I think Roman is a character that gets better and then gets worse. And You'll see.
Cool.
But like him in this movie is kind of like the best version of him, where he's like kind of funny, but also tough and like a little bit, you don't really know what he's going to do.
Does he kind of turn into a bit of a clown character later on?
Especially in Fast X. Fast X is fucking bad to him.
Thank you for saying bad to him, because we're not allowed to say exactly what our opinions are on the future movies.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows what I think of this at this point. So Ludacris is in this, and effectively he took over Ja Rule's part from the first one.
Yeah.
Because Ja Rule was offered the part of Ludacris, but turned it down because he wasn't getting paid enough. And then Ludacris takes it, and obviously he's in 8 other movies after this.
Yeah.
But I figured out about this controversy with Ludacris and Bill O'Reilly.
What?
So in 2002, Bill O'Reilly called for all Americans to boycott Pepsi products because they hired Ludacris for a like commercial, basically. And Bill O'Reilly objected to Ludacris's style and attitude, essentially because he's a black man. I
Yeah,
assume.
sure. I mean, that to me seems like the equivalent of people boycotting like
Bud Light or whatever.
Bud Light because there's like
A trans person on 16 cans of Bud Light.
Yeah, it's like
It was on every
it's just
can.
people
What are you
being
talking
mad
about?
because they've been taught to be scared by people that are different.
Yeah.
Like it's
And then the next day, Bill O'Reilly reports that Pepsi has fired Ludacris.
really
Yeah.
it actually worked.
Yeah. This was 2002.
I guess so, but like still fucking insane.
6 months later, Russell Simmons and his hip hop action summit threatened a boycott of all Pepsi products on the grounds that Pepsi had subsequently hired Ozzy Osbourne for a commercial, even though Osbourne is notable for his use of profanity and explicit lyrics. Essentially the same thing that Ludacris does.
Yeah.
Osbourne is obviously a white guy. Eventually, an agreement was reached that Pepsi would be donating $3 million to Ludacris's foundation and other inner city charities. So basically, Bill O'Reilly got an award with Ludacris for
Being a black man.
yeah. And this is like
Goodness
the
me.
year before, around the time that this movie is getting shot and stuff, which is just like crazy. That's
Yeah.
such a wild thing that I didn't even know.
And
about.
Ludacris looks good in this movie.
Yeah.
Like TBH, like a bit. I just said TBH, IRL. I just said IRL in real life.
He's Twitch
Goodness.
pilled, brother.
But like to be honest, later in the franchise, like Ludacris, you can kind of tell that it's like this is Ludacris, the like kind of older rapper that like your parents probably listen to. But in this, it's like, damn, that's Ludacris.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
And also he gets like, Tej becomes a better character later on because he's
Yeah.
not in this one very much.
No, he's very clearly a side character.
It is, when you like look back on these movies, you're like, why the fuck did they pick these guys to like how did
Be
they
the
pick out
ones.
the people from each of
Because
the
like
movies?
Suki doesn't come back, does
No, which is kind of strange.
she? Yeah, because Suki's a great character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another person who's in this movie is Eva Mendes.
Mm-hmm.
She's makes a cameo later on. But
Like she's the officer, right?
yeah.
Which is fine, but like
It's just
it
a
kind of
weak
annoys
role.
me that there's like a revolving door of like romantic interests. Like not necessarily for one character, but it's just like Brian has like a revolving door of romantic interests, and then Dom does kind of, and it's just like whatever.
I
But,
mean,
like
the
that's
thing-
that's not a Fast and Furious critique. That's more of just like a movies in general critique. But like
The thing with Brian though is like it's kind of just Mia and Fuentes, which is her last name, Eva Mendes' character.
yeah,
Other than that, Brian doesn't have any other love interests in the franchise.
yeah,
Because it's just like Mia is like his one true OTP. one true pairing or whatever.
Yeah.
But like the character is like relatively weak. She doesn't really have any thing that she does.
There's a point where she like warns Brian that like Verone is gonna kill them.
Yeah.
On the boat, and then they like, after they're done talking, they kiss on the mouth, and it's like, I know that you guys have had like.
There's been
They've been hinting that like you guys are kind of interested in each other. There's been nothing to suggest that you guys would both be comfortable like instinctively and naturally kissing each other on the mouth to say goodbye.
There's some light flirting.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And then they just are like, I guess we are interested, and then they kiss on the mouth, and then later they're just like, all right, I guess that was business.
Yeah, nice job.
And it's just like,
It's just
did anything
weird.
just happen?
Yeah.
I'm so confused.
It's weird. And like,
But then Tyrese is like, I gotta stay in Miami to keep an eye on you. Oh yeah, that's another thing. For the Fast and the Furious movie, I mentioned how they like did a double line exchange, and then literally the next two lines are the same lines. They did that again in this movie, where like. Where Tyrese is like, I gotta stay in Miami, keep an eye on you, bruh. And then they cut to the next scene, which is them walking like away from where they were. And then Brian goes, so you staying in Miami? Brother, he literally just said he's staying in Miami. It's just like,
some of the dialogue in this movie is bad.
yeah, dude, there's a point early on where Brian says, I said forget about it,
It's
cuh.
iconic.
Because, like, he's saying cuz, because, like, some of the characters are saying cuz, because that's, like, slang at the time.
Yeah.
But, like,
He's like, I said
Paul Walker, white man Brian, says, I said forget about it,
in
cuh.
the most, like, dead. He sounds so dead when he says,
I said forget about it, cuh.
I said, forget about it, cuh.
And it's like, that does not sound natural
And
coming
then
out of your
also,
mouth at all.
when Roman says, it's a oasis in here, bruh. Like, that's wild, man. You can't. That's insane.
And the thing is that there's so many lines like that.
Yeah.
It's just like they use so much like slang in the movie that like
Another classic one is ejectocito, cuh. Like, come on, man.
Ejectocito. And I think he says that because the guy's Italian.
No, he says that because he's got the ejector seat.
Yeah, I know, but why does he
Oh.
say ejectocito?
I think it's just funny. I think that's literally it. That it's.
I
kinda
think
like
I'm looking
dumb
for
and
meaning
fun.
where there is none.
Yeah.
There's so many lines like that that are like,
Also, the Italians basically all their words being like, "So you're gonna end up dead soon." That's every sentence that they say is basically like, "I'm gonna kill you soon."
yeah.
That's how, the meaning of all of their sentences. I love that. How it's just so one-dimensional that they're just like, "Fuck you! You don't have an American car."
Also, can I, maybe we'll get into this later, but can I just say, kind of related, kind of unrelated, Verone, like, tortures this man with the little rat bucket trick
Yeah.
to try and get him to buy him 15 minutes so that he doesn't do the rat trick on his wife and daughter.
Yeah.
And then the guy buys him a minute 30 seconds. Like, he doesn't even try.
The person's like, "Should we send them in?" And he's like, Yeah, actually send them in right now, please.
Yeah, he's
Yep,
like,
right
wait,
now.
do not until I tell you.
Right.
Okay,
now.
go. And it's like, you did
Yeah.
not try. I mean, if Verone wasn't captured, that man's wife and daughter are having rats in their tummies. But
That is like a brutal scene to
Oh,
be
yeah.
in this movie.
I mean, it kind of amazes me how 2 movies in a row, there's kind of like a brutal torture scene.
Yeah.
Like there's the shoving gasoline and waterboarding him with gas in his mouth.
oil, come on.
Oil, sorry.
Yeah.
And then there's, putting a rat in a bucket on his tummy
Is
and
there
heating
a
up the
torture
bucket.
scene in Tokyo Drift? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, thankfully.
There's like a brutal beat up scene,
Yeah.
but like that's about it.
Um,
It's not even that brutal.
there's a couple parts of this movie that are just weak, though. I think Eva Mendes is like not great.
She's just fine. It's
Like she's just kind of one-dimensional.
yeah.
I think a lot of the set design feels like they ran out of money. Like especially the club. where they are doing the torture thing, it's like just red curtains around them. It's like, where the fuck are we right now?
Yeah.
And then there's just like, I don't know. There's just some things where you're like,
where I feel like
give me a little
the
bit
Fast
more.
and the Furious thrives, like the first film. I feel like it thrives when it's sitting with the characters.
yeah.
And then like the chase sequences and like racing is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like sitting with the characters is what's really good. Whereas I feel like in Too Fast, Too Furious, it's like the race sequences and like stunt sequences are kind of what make the movie.
Yeah.
Because like they're able to inject the personality of the characters in there. But when it's just like characters sitting around, it's like, okay.
Yeah. There isn't like that's why I think Dom is such an essential element of these movies, because
He's able to bring it in both.
yeah, where it's like you believe that he can do the action stuff but also has the heart.
Yeah.
Whereas like Tyrese is great in the movie, but he is a great like second character.
Yeah.
And Brian is also a great second character, right?
Well,
Until he gets
yeah,
a little
Brian's
later in
like
the
a great
franchise.
1B character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it's later in the franchise, Brian doesn't really have like, or at least Paul Walker hasn't like figured it out fully what Brian is and like how to act as Brian.
I'm like genuinely excited to see like, because we're like in the movies we've watched for the podcast thus far, it's
Like-
still them kind of like being like, I don't know, we don't really know what we're doing. We're just trying
Yeah.
shit. I'm excited for when we like reach the point of
Like, have you seen Furious 7?
no.
Okay.
Like I've seen Fast 5, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen like portions of Fast 6 because I all I know is that I know for sure that I've seen The Rock on a plane.
Okay. Yeah, that's Fast 6.
Yeah, so I've seen
Yeah.
parts of that, but I'm pretty sure I forget 90% of that film.
Yeah.
And then aside from that, I haven't seen any of them.
And then I think you've seen like parts of 9 where they
I
do
think
the
just because you've
swing.
shown me,
Yeah.
well, just because those were in like trailers.
Yeah, and I think I watched it while you were like around.
Yeah, oh
when
yeah,
we
yeah,
were
yeah.
living together, and like, I remember that I watched it when you and Olivia were there, because Olivia was like, "Do people like how that looks?" Because the flashbacks have like this heavy grain on them, and I was like, "It kind of works in the story, but like, you know, give or take a little bit."
Yeah.
The guy who gets his stomach eaten by the rat, or almost, is Mark Boone Jr., who's a pretty great actor. He's in like the Dark Knight movies as well.
Yeah.
I like it when these movies can like pull greatness out of the seams of the movie.
Yeah.
So like I think Verone is a good villain.
I think he's a good villain. I just don't think he's a strong character.
I think he could have been more realized by someone who was maybe more of a Verone. Because Cole Hauser is like, I think he's like from Boston. He's like a Boston guy.
He's like good at being like the like calm but confident guy, but I don't know if he's great at being like the evil mob boss.
Okay,
guy.
he's from Santa Barbara. But like he's in a lot of these, like he's in Dazed and Confused and Good Will Hunting, and like also Pitch Black with Vin Diesel. But like these movies where he's just kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And now he's in Yellowstone, where it's like, if we had like, this is more of a modern recasting, but if you had like a Pedro Pascal or like an Oscar Isaac or like
an Adam
one of-
Driver.
maybe a little bit. He's not Italian.
I know.
But like if you had
Is that
one of these,
Oscar Isaac Italian?
huh?
Is Oscar Isaac? I mean,
No, I'm saying like the only other thing that Adam Driver can play is Italian.
oh, you're saying Verone isn't Italian?
Verone's not Italian.
Yeah. I thought you were saying Adam Driver's not Italian.
Yeah,
Which
Adam
I am
Driver's not
aware of.
Italian. Yeah, but like if you had one of these other great actors, I think that it could just be sold a little better, and it's a little more convincing that he's like a Miami drug lord as well, even though
Yeah.
that's a little like stereotypical. But it's like fucking Pedro Pascal could sell Miami drug lord because he can sell Pablo Escobar or whoever he played.
He
in
didn't play
Narcos.
Pablo Escobar, but
Whoever
he played a
played
drug
Pablo.
lord. Or did he play a cop in?
He played something in there. I've never seen Narcos, but I know he was in Narcos, and he's just like incredible.
You know who would actually be great in this? it is Diego Luna.
That's actually very true.
He'd be like really, really good as like a drug lord. Because even watching, just to bring it back to Star Wars as I always do, but like even watching Andor, like he's obviously great as like kind of an anti-hero protagonist, but like it kind of makes you realize that like, man, he'd be a great bad guy.
Yeah. You just need someone.
Although
think,
I'm
like,
pretty sure when this movie came out, Diego Luna was like 18 probably.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just like Cole Hauser's not the guy for this, I think.
I don't think he does a bad job.
No.
I just think it's a poor casting.
Yeah, it's just like unconvincing, and you're just like, okay.
I'm not scared of him. I just don't like him.
Yeah. I think also I'm never convinced that, like, I guess, am I convinced that he's going to make the rat eat through the guy? 50-50, I think.
I am, but like in my mind, I'm like, but he kind of needs the 15 minutes. So like,
yeah. So he's either going to get it out of him or I think he's just going to get it out of him. It's one of those situations in a movie where you're like, he needs this thing, so he's going to get this thing.
Well, that's why I think it's like such an interesting torture method, because I'm like, this guy is like obviously going to fold.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want a rat to eat through him.
It's so horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like in the Batman, how there's like a bunch of different like traps, and one of them is like the like rat maze trap thing that is on the head. It's like, it's kind of, I mean, obviously because it's rats, but like it's kind of similar to that, where it's like the torture method is not someone torturing you, it's someone being like, hey, I can't help you. This is just animal instinct. Like, there's something almost more sadistic about that.
Yeah. Interesting. I said forget about it, cuh.
It's horrible.
So I think the racing scenes in this movie are pretty good.
Yes.
I think they don't reach an extreme height because there is some stuff in them where it is a little like
silly.
Yeah, it's a little silly. Like the lights coming off of the cars is very like cool and stylized, but also takes you out of it because it is 2003 CGI, which isn't the best, I'll say. We kind of talked about this in the last episode.
Yeah.
But like the cars look kind of silly and you're like, okay. But like the colors in the whole movie I think are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And the way that they play with colors in the races I think is really cool. And something I wish was a little more explored in the later movies. But also, like, none of the other movies are as vibrant as this one.
Yeah.
Like, there's a few scenes.
I honestly thought Tokyo Drift would be more vibrant than it is.
They just set it a lot at night.
Yeah.
So it's just kind
but
of
like, even then, I thought they'd, like, play with, like, lighting a lot differently, but they kind of don't. There it is. I felt like there was a build up to that. Wow.
Yeah, I was trying to get him out of me.
For a brief moment, I thought you were doing a bit where I thought I said something dumb, and you were like looking at looking into the distance, like,
no, I was trying to
disassociating.
get that out of that little demon out.
Also,
of me.
I'll be honest, this shit's starting to hit me.
Me as well.
At least it's for this film.
Yeah. We were talking earlier, and I was like, we can get a little fucked up for this one because it's a little lower tier.
It's a bit of more of a wacky. I don't know what that means.
It's
a bit more of a wacky.
It's a bit more.
It's a bit more of a wacky.
That was like the Simpsons theme song.
The wacky. You have to do it with me. The wacky.
So
I said forget about it, cuh.
Ejectocito, cuh.
Ejectocito. So bad.
How far are we into this? 34 minutes?
Oh, I have one more.
Okay.
Can I just say some quotes I wrote down since we're on that?
Of course.
Roman saying, I run these streets in a race when he's been there for about 1 week maximum, and he's been under house arrest for 3 years elsewhere.
Is that the race with the Italians?
Yeah, where they race they race
that
for
is
the
a
cars.
Great race.
It is a great race, especially since like it starts with Brian being like, dude, we got to pull some shit out of our ass, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
if we go engine to engine, they win.
Yeah.
So we got to, and like the fact that Roman is like doing some stuff, but then he like gets kind of spun out.
Yeah.
And it's like, shit, they're behind. And then Brian's like, I'm just going to play a chicken with this
yeah.
guy and like act like I'm going to bash into him.
Yeah. It's an incredible race. It's
Yeah.
one of the better races of this first trilogy.
Yeah.
I guess it is probably one of the better races in the series because there aren't a ton of races in the later movies.
Well, because it just feels like it's a little more. It's not like. Because I feel like a lot of the time, like the bigger scale races feel more like chases.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the lower scale races kind of just feel like, okay,
they're void
on,
of stakes.
They're on a straight and it's really up to who hits the NOS button at the right time.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is like, okay, they've actually got to outsmart and outmaneuver them. I do think the race at the beginning of the movie with like the drawbridge ramp is pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's more exciting, but this one is better. The thing I think this one is better as like just a grounded race between the cars.
Yeah.
But the first one is a better like set piece where it's like you've got the lights, you've got the jump, you've got all that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing I don't love about this race is that you're not really sure why they need the cars yet. As far as I remember.
Yeah.
It's like they're going to race these guys for slips, but then you figure out later on in the movie and it's kind of like I wish it was just like we need these cars for our plan or something where it's like adds the stakes to this.
Yeah, because in my mind I was like, are they racing for different cars just because they want cars that don't have the like GPS trackers in them? Like, which is true, but it's like kind of more than that because we find out the plan where like there's a fucking million cars, which I really love.
It's sick.
It's
awesome.
Like, and it's really exciting. It's kind of like it's exciting.
Oh, wait, fuck.
What?
Keep going. It's exciting.
It's exciting in the same way that like what? Oh shit! It's right there. We for the Fast and the Furious episode, we put Dom's Charger out, so we've got Brian's Skyline in this one.
Brum brum.
I got Calder these as a little present because
on the correct side.
yeah,
A little windshield wiper action by me there.
just because I don't know.
You like?
I bought this one while I was with you, and
Oh,
and I
really?
was able to.
Oh, I
yeah,
didn't even notice.
because we were at a Staples and I saw it and I was like, shit, I've been looking for this everywhere, I haven't found it, and I was like, I'm just gonna get it now, and I hid it like underneath like.
I think
I
you're
don't know.
a nicer friend than I am.
Maybe.
Have I ever bought you anything?
So, fun fact, Olivia and I sometimes joke about how for my birthday while we lived together, you bought a 6-pack of cookies for me and you ate 4 of the cookies. You ate 4 of the cookies.
Yeah.
Because you were like, do you want any of these? And I was like, yeah, I'll have some. I mean, you got them for me. He's like, and you were like, okay, they're just like really good. And you ate 4 of the 6 cookies. And I was like, hey, I appreciate the gesture. Here's the thing.
I should have bought 2 6.
I don't think you're a worse friend. I think I just really like doing things like for friends, whereas like because for my birthday you like hung out with me almost all day. Like
my love language is physical touch.
yeah, which is why you beat me up that night.
You know it. You know
That
it.
tickles. What were we just talking about?
I don't know. You said something about the exciting level of the races in the cars. I don't know. I honestly don't think it.
I don't remember, and I don't think I give a shit. So we're going back to quotes here.
Ejectocito,
I really liked when they went to meet up with like the police again, and they walk in, and Brian's just like, "Nice shirt, Bilkins," and it cuts to Bilkins, and he's just wearing like a really bright yellow like Florida shirt, and he's like, I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
It's just like so silly.
I like Bilkins a lot in this movie.
Yeah, same.
He's just such like
Well, because they gave him a personality. In
yeah.
the first one, he's just kind of like
mean police chief.
yeah. Whereas in this one, he's a lot more
Like
fun.
when Brian and Tyrese are fighting, and he just like sits in the lawn chair and lets them sort it out. Also,
dude, I love that fight because when they're fighting, it's not treated like, oh shit, they're fighting. It's treated like
it's like two boys fighting.
Yeah,
like two friends.
because they're like,
wrestling.
stop it, you're such a oh, I hate you.
You're
And it's like,
you're such a bitch.
these are two little children like doing their little
and they're
boy
not trying to
fight.
like kill each other.
No, they're just trying to like
Yeah.
hit each other.
But then when Tyree stands up and he's got like the sand on him and it's just like the gorgeous, colorful background, and you're like, fuck, that looks so good.
yeah.
It's incredible, man.
What other quotes?
Also, that introduction for Tyrese as like the demolition derby.
Oh, it's awesome.
It's just incredible.
He's like, this is the
I
guy
say
you pick, and it's
incredible way
like,
too
yeah, he's just fucking.
Yeah, he like he destroys the other guy and gets out of his car and like celebrates the crowd.
And then you
sees
find out that he's
Brian.
on house arrest in his trailer.
One thing I think is a little overwrought is when he's convinced to go and help Brian, and then he gets out of the car, and there's a long shot where he bends down and rubs his ankle to be like, the bracelet's off, boys, and then
Yeah.
just goes in. I'm like,
Which is like
I
whatever.
assume.
I do appreciate though that like they didn't have him like pull up his pant leg.
And be like,
They just had him rub it, right?
pull it up and be like, man, this thing's breathing good, and then put it back down.
Yeah, he just like rubs it. Although
Yeah, he just rubs his ankle.
it's weird. I feel like they did like a 5 out of 10 acknowledgement of it, which I appreciate them doing instead of a 10 out of 10 acknowledgement of it. But I wish they did like a 2 out of 10 where he
Yeah.
just like rubs his ankle and they move on. But he
Yeah.
rubs it for like 5 seconds.
Or
and
he's
it's
just
like,
wearing shorts.
yeah.
Like, I feel like that's just easy, right?
Yeah.
Or he's like wearing a tight little pair of capris.
Or like have them like, or literally show him like agreeing to do it. And then they like take it off and then they cut or
Yeah.
something.
I don't know.
Like
I
have
feel
the
like,
transition be like a shot of like the bracelet hitting the ground because he tosses it or something. And
I
then
think there is something where it's just like, that is a little too much. Because I don't think he would
It's a
do
little
that
silly.
after like a couple, like a 20-minute car ride. Are you really being like, fuck, my ankle is still.
It's so nice that now that I'm standing out of the car, I'm rubbing my ankle.
Like, he didn't even get it taken off in the car, right? Like,
And I think the way he rubs it is also just kind of unnatural. He like
Yeah.
grabs it and like squeezes it and like moves it around. It's like
we get it.
yeah, it's fine.
Did you know he was just a model before this?
That's kind of
And he was born in like the UK too.
cool.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy.
Kind of like Agua
Remember
Agua and Anobi.
Remember when we watched his house tour?
Fucking hell. If you want a wacky vid, watch the Tyrese Gibson house tour.
This is where the magic happens. Tyrese makes music. This is news to me.
I have one more quote,
I'm on
and it's also
fire
kind of
right
a
now.
qualm.
Yeah.
I hate the movie trope of characters gambling and someone being like, yeah, well, guess what? I won. Thanks. Give me all the
Oh,
money.
yeah, I
And then
love
someone being like, well, joke's on you. I got a royal flush. Like that. Like
That's
that's
so stupid. That's just not how that works.
It literally happens in so many movies where it's like, I won, which first of all, you don't know you won yet. So why are you saying that? And then 2, it has someone come in and be like, actually, I got the best hand you can get in this game.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's, anyway, that happens in this movie, and I just think it's very silly.
Also, like, there is something weird with Suki and Ludacris.
I mean, there's very clearly, like, more than just, like, a friendship there.
But we need to, like, get Suki back in them.
Dude, Suki is like, dude, literally every time I was watching a Fast and Furious movie, like leading up to recording these, Olivia would walk into the room and be like, is this the one with Suki in it? Because, like, that's the character she remembers.
Yeah.
And it's like, but Suki's just never come back.
Yeah, it's a very weird.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about Jesse being a character we'd like to bring back later on.
Yeah.
But, like, if Suki is still alive
yeah.
in the canon, and why not?
Well,
you know?
I have a question, and don't give too much away if there's, like, a good answer to this. Does Tej ever have, like, a romantic interest? Okay. See, like,
Obvious, right? It's just obvious that you would have Suki be that.
yeah.
Not
Even she doesn't even have to like be a big part or anything. It's just like it makes no sense that she's like, to me, of the 3 movies we've watched up to this point, The Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, and Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, like Suki is probably in the top 3 side characters in my mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah, top 3 actually. That's fair.
Because like I wouldn't consider Tyrese a side character at this point because he was main character 1B in this movie. Tej I'd say is top, and I'd say like
I think the top 4 are Bow Wow from Tokyo Drift,
sure,
Suki, Tej, Jesse.
yeah,
Because I don't think Han is a side character.
no, I would agree.
So I think it's those 4 as the top, and then everyone else is kind of in the mix. Like, I'd love to say that Letty is in there, but her character
At this point she's not.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that she'll get better, but at this point she's kind of.
We should write like a sort of a paper on this or something to sort of share our knowledge with the general populace.
Like maybe let me know how you think about this, but maybe record a podcast.
I'd kill myself before I did that.
Okay.
I kind of figured that this movie would be a little light on things. Do you have something that you want to talk about there?
I can just go through a few things.
Okay.
I mentioned this the last episode because I thought it was this movie, and then I remembered. Or not last episode, but last Fast and Furious episode.
Okay.
The CGI hubcap / rim intro is so goofy and does not look good.
Part of me thinks like that's fucking silly and fucking sick at the same time.
Well, it kind of sums up the franchise from what I've seen of it thus far, which is just like, that is so stupid, but like I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Because it embraces how it's almost camp.
Yeah.
But like it's like goofy.
It's too bro-ish
male
to be
action camp. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like bro-y camp.
That's a perfect way to describe what I was trying to describe in the last like Fast and Furious episode, where it's like straight white men have camp.
Yes.
It is just, it looks like the Fast and Furious and Den of Thieves and Heat.
Yeah.
That is straight white man camp. And
Yeah.
also, once you get older, sort of like Saving Private Ryan and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But like,
Forrest Gump.
yeah.
I'm joking. Not
Honestly,
really, but
Forrest Gump is
like
white man camp. For sure.
Yeah, not straight white man camp necessarily.
Yeah.
Like
I think it is straight white man camp.
sure. I feel like
Old
Forrest
straight white
Gump
man
is
camp.
like a straight white man being like, yeah, I kind of know movies. Like that's the
That
perspective.
thing beat Pulp Fiction at the Oscars, man. And Tom Hanks beat John Travolta. For
That I
playing-
kind of understand, but like
it's just like,
here's the thing, I haven't seen Forrest Gump in so long. I'm kind of tempted, especially knowing how much you kind of dislike it and knowing that like the last time I watched it, I loved it. I just haven't seen it in forever. So like a part of me wants to do Forrest Gump on the pod just cuz like it's a weird one.
it is a weird one.
So anyway,
Maybe we'll do that later in the year when we're kind of
fucked up.
craving some sort of change.
I've been like trying to debate because like we're gonna get to choose less like non Fast and Furious and Star Wars movies this year.
Yeah.
Which is good because I've wanted to put so many Star Wars movies on, and you've wanted to put, so like it kind of balances out. But like I've got to really like pick which the ones I choose for like the in between bits are. So I've been thinking specifically about like my birthday month kind of picks, and like there's like one or two I know I'm picking, but like I'm
I think
kind of
mine
excited.
are pretty locked in. But we'll
Like
talk
all
about
of
that
them,
later.
really.
I think the third one is iffy.
There's only one I know is locked in.
Which one? The Seattle Mariners?
No, for me, I mean.
Oh. For me, it's probably like Dune 1 and Dune 2, which will be in theaters by the time we're doing that one. And then the history
So
of the
excited.
Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, which is not a movie, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. I think it's a good... Because we're changing topics fully. But
That's okay.
part of my reasoning for that is like I want to talk about YouTube a little bit because I
Sure.
know YouTube is a big part of both of our like entertainment lives and
Sure.
like our pasts with liking entertainment and stuff like that. So I think it's just like a way for us to kind of talk about that. Anyway,
My movie's Tick Tick Boom is what I'm gonna do for sure at some
Sure.
point. Just
this
because,
sounds good.
mostly because
You'd like me to see it?
have you not seen it?
No.
Oh, cool. I think you'd like it, but we'll get into it.
What else did you have? Because
right.
I'll tell you what's up on my docket here before we end.
Sure.
I've got a pitch for my version of a Fast and Furious movie set in the original trilogy.
Cool.
And then I've also got my pillars and then some questions.
Okay. The title intro, because they do the hubcap Universal logo, which
Absolutely
is goofy,
incredible.
But then they also do like they do a brief kind of like cold open bit, and then they do like the actual like title screen where they just have a bunch of like neon lights going like all over the screen.
It's so silly.
I could not help but smile just because it's so silly and like over the top. I said I like Brian and Tej, but this seems a bit unfair because in the first race, Tej is just like, "Oh, you guys don't have a fourth racer? Let me call maybe the best racer that we all know, and
best
he's
racer
also
on the
gonna
Eastern
convince you
Hemisphere."
guys to pay like triple what you planned, and he's gonna cream you guys."
Yeah.
Like it just anyway.
It's so like ridiculous that Tej is like, anyone, and they're like, he's not going to invite Brian. Of course, we'll let him bring anyone. And then
they
of
go,
course he invites
"Oh,
Brian.
it's Brian." It's like he
Who
literally.
the fuck else is he calling, my man?
Yeah. Brian literally uses his undercover cop jobs as his own personal dating app.
It's pretty sick.
One of the guys that they win the car from looks like Mystery Guitar Man.
Okay. Is that long hair or short hair?
That's long hair, but he's wearing the exact type of glasses, and he's got
Okay.
the beard. I like that Bilkins and Brian like each other now. I already mentioned this, but the fucking rat dude barely bought them any time.
Yeah.
Like he said, don't go in one time. Got them
And then he's
literally like maybe 2 minutes. Why are there 20 cop cars chasing all at once on the highway?
It's hilarious.
It's hilarious, but I'm like, that guys,
There is like
split up your forces.
there's a part of me that like thinks about the Keystone Cops. I don't know if you've ever seen these, but they're like old silent short films from like the birth of cinema, where it's just about these cops that are absolute bumbling idiots trying to chase one person, and they bump into each other and they fall over and they can't catch one man. And it makes me think of that because these guys are driving down a straight highway and constantly hit each other.
Yeah.
They're so bad.
I couldn't help but think that it was like Grand Theft Auto when you get into a like cop chase, but even in that game, it's like maybe 3 cops are
Yeah.
behind you max.
Unless you're at like 4 stars.
But then it's not even like they add more cop cars. They just like add a helicopter in there.
Yeah.
Like
In this one, it's just like a crew of bumbling idiots driving cop cars after you. And it's so funny that that's just like, yeah, that's what these guys would do.
Yeah,
They don't
that's-
know what the fuck they're doing.
I guess it makes sense because they're like, but no, because they're in Miami. There would be a street racing scene. They probably chased
They're just so bad.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it's just like in general,
a cab.
I think that's literally it. Because John Singleton is like against a lot of the policing stuff. And
Fair.
Like, grew up in like southern LA and like
Which honestly, because like Olivia made a comment where she's like, "Oh, fucking propaganda bullshit." When like it was like, of course Brian's a cop. Of course he's like working with the cops again. But it's like, yeah, but like they're kind of portraying the cops as like bad. Because the
Yeah.
cops are like against the guys we've learned are like deep down good people, and like they're kind of like jeopardizing the lives and security of like the characters we care about.
Yeah.
And when they chase these guys, they're fucking morons. Like it's kind of like you could perceive parts of it as propaganda because like Brian is a cop. But, like, pretty quickly he leaves that behind and, like, the cops are kind of dumb. Aside from Bilkins, but, like, it's pretty clear that he's, like...
He's
not a
different
cop.
thing.
He's, like, a detective.
yeah.
Which
Is
is
like, yeah. It's just like, I think it's just so funny that the cops are so bad. And, like, the swarm of cop cars is just kind of hilarious to me.
Speaking of swarms, the car scramble is so cool.
That's so fucking...
Like, when they pull into the garage and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? They just cornered themselves. And then, like, 500 cars are released and the cops are like, well, first the trucks are released and they bash. And my immediate thought was like, no chance that, like, none of these guys are caught. Like, the
Yeah.
cops have to catch some of these people.
I mean, we'll see. They're kind of stupid fucks, but
I guess so. And I guess their cars are ruined.
I'm not convinced that they know how to use the handcuffs.
That's fair.
One thing I've been thinking about constantly and haven't said yet is that I love that these cars in this movie look like Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
Because they're just so, like, kind of silly. Like, the two cars that Brian and Tyrese get are fucking stupid looking.
Well, because they're cars,
purple and green.
but they're like, oh shit, this
Yeah.
looks rad. Which just makes me think, like, when I was playing like fucking Project Gotham Racing or like Need for Speed Carbon
Yeah.
on my original Xbox, that's the kind of car I was
Yeah.
making, where I'm like, I'm gonna make this thing as bright as possible. I'm gonna make like I'm gonna make the rims a spike that extends out 3 meters, like just like the most over the top stuff, but I'd be like, that looks good.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like that, obviously, like not to that full extent. Like, they still look kind of good, but they're still over the top. I think that just makes it more fun. And it makes it more like you said, Hot Wheels. It makes it feel more like playful and like less serious.
And it feels like John Singleton liked he's on record saying he liked the first movie.
yeah.
But then it feels like he was just like in his office or whatever, playing with some Hot Wheels and being like, we could do some cool shit with this.
Yeah.
Because like even at the end when they swarm, it's so cool because the cars are so like unique. There's not like a bunch of Honda Civics running.
It's not
out
like
of
there's
the
a bunch of cars and then it's
garage.
like, that one's them. It's
Yeah.
like,
like,
they
what the
could
fuck's
be in
happening?
literally any of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tej telling Brian, like, literally on the phone in front of a police officer that is actively, like
Yeah.
arresting him,
That's
being
rough.
like, on the phone being like, yeah, you owe me big time, Brian. And, like, saying him by name is like, the cop is standing
But
right
he's
in
so
front of you.
stupid. He's so dumb. The cop.
Yeah.
You can't hear.
I guess so.
It's so
I guess
funny
you just
that
gotta
they get-
assume cops are stupid in this movie.
that Tej and Suki get chased and then they get pulled over and they just get in there like, what are we doing, officers? Why would you chase us? It's like, okay. There's one car in the world that looks like these cars.
Yeah, we know that you're somehow involved, especially when he's grinning ear to ear and being
Yeah.
like, what are you doing, guys? It's like, okay, we're aware.
But then it makes me think like in universe, the cops were just like, oh, fuck, what do we do? We don't know.
I mean, it's clear that they were getting arrested, and then
Yeah.
I think Bilkin says, like, they dealt with it and, like, they're fine. So really, Brian doesn't owe... I mean, maybe he owes them just because it was a nice favor, but, like, they didn't get arrested. Last thoughts is just, like, kind of my overall thoughts. This movie's a lot of fun and has a lot of great characters. The absence of Dom does bring it down.
yeah, that's fair.
However, like, his absence is kind of filled in by a lot of fun side characters like Tej and Tyrese and Suki and, like, a couple others.
But you don't have the heights of like quarter mile at a time.
Yeah,
or
there-
you thought you had me.
There's I feel like more fun in this movie, but there's a bit less depth in
Yeah.
this film. So
Here's my piss for.
here's my piss, dude. This guy just said, "Here's my piss. Here's my piss. Here's my." You have to chant with me.
Ejectocito, cuh. Here's what I'm gonna do when I'm editing the video. I'm not gonna do that actually.
This shit is bad.
As he pours more. Here's my pitch for a Fast and Furious movie set during the original trilogy. Okay? And kind of in modern day. It's
2023.
set in New York.
It's 2024.
2024. It's set in New York, but our protagonist lives in Long Island. Okay?
Wow.
And it's played by either Zendaya or Lovie Simone.
is the protag?
Yeah.
Cool.
And they need some money because they're living with their father, but it's not a good life, you know? Not the ideal thing that they want to be in. They love street racing. And the idea of the movie is that this racer gets brought in by Suki to be a part of a crew who's trying to pull a heist on a drug kingpin, played by Stanley Tucci, in New
That's cool.
York. But the drug kingpin has a coked out son who wants to also heist the kingpin, played by Skylar Gisondo, who is in Booksmart.
Okay.
And he's tired of waiting for his inheritance. So he's either going to kill his dad and take the money or take the money from his dad. But Zendaya and Suki's crew don't know this. But Skylar has kind of picked up on it and is kind of following in their footsteps, trying to map out what they're going to do. So this movie is a bit more of a mix between Heat and Too Fast, Too Furious, because as they're setting up the heist, there's a lot of street races. There's a lot of fun. There's some partying because it's the summer in New York, remember?
I feel like that's kind of the pitch for a Fast and Furious movie is like, here's the overall plot, and obviously there's some races in there.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, guys, come on. They're going to do street races.
yeah.
Obviously. Even if it's just like at the beginning of the
Even if
movie.
it's just one of them being like, hey, you want to race to the other side of the coast? Or
Yeah.
whatever the fuck that means.
It's just like, well, let's go down the Lincoln Tunnel. First one out wins.
Yeah.
Some races. Wait, what the fuck does that say? Oh, there's some races to get like some burner cars for the thing. They
Fair.
have to figure out how to get a garbage truck for it because they're trying to heist a like an armored bank truck because the kingpin is moving his money between two different places. The heist happens in the third act, and as the heist is happening, the three sides, the coked out son, Stanley Tucci and his boys, and Zendaya and Suki all crash in the middle, and it's kind of it's kind of a melee. They don't know what's going on, and it ends by Zendaya and Suki having to race through Brooklyn while being chased by Skylar Gisondo and Tucci through the streets of Brooklyn. And they obviously get away with the money. Tucci and Skylar get caught. And Zendaya and Suki go off into the sunset.
That's a fun one.
To come back for another day.
That's a fun one. It would be really interesting for where the Fast and Furious franchise is now to be like, let's take a pause. Let's do this quick side story.
I think they kind of need to.
I feel like they need to as well.
And
Because they're
not a
kind of at
Hobbs
the
and Shaw
point.
side story.
This is coming from someone who hasn't seen any of the new ones.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like they kind of they're at the point now where it's like, they're doing the same thing over and over, but just like topping the last one.
But it's not topping it.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of need to take a pause. It's kind of the way Star Wars is with like the Jedi and like the Skywalker saga. And it's like you kind of need to take a pause from that and just do some other kind of unrelated stuff in the same universe with the same kind of themes.
I think
and then
it
like
needs,
you can tie it in later if you want. But like you kind of need to...
It needs like a Mandalorian season 1 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, this is a little story in here. Maybe Dom comes into it, maybe not. But it's like, it goes back to this original trilogy idea of we're going to these different places and they're not fully connected, but they're related. Which I think is just like kind of the key.
Would you be open to like a Fast and Furious TV show? Or do you think that would kind of suck shit?
The thing is, the thing that makes these movies good is the set piece, is the action.
That's fair.
And you don't really get that in TV because it's like...
TV has reached the point where like they can reach new heights that like are almost cinematic, but there's still like a thing of like, I am watching a show right now.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so they're going to do the set piece. Is that just an episode? Otherwise, like the other problem I have with TV is like, it feels like they're doing 3 hours of story in 8 hours. Whereas I'd rather
fair.
they do 3 hours of story in 2 hours and kind of get through it quick and like figure out an efficient way to do it.
That's like a big thing with like a lot of the like, I mean, Marvel shows as well, but like mainly the Obi-Wan show where it's like, I mean, it was originally supposed to be a movie. And then they were like, let's make it a show because people are loving the shows. But then it's like a lot of that show is very like thin.
It's just like, what the fuck is happening? Like literally what is happening in these scenes?
Yeah.
Right?
Where it's like that. However, it would have worked great as a film.
Yeah.
And I think you'd have to shift some shit around.
I
and not
would have
do
watched the
fucking
whole
something.
thing if it was a film. If it was, if
Well,
it
that's
was
the thing,
just
because
like,
you're already sitting down. You may as well finish the film. But like,
Yeah.
you watch episode 1, and then you're like,
and you're like,
maybe
oh,
it's
that's
better in
maybe
episode
the
2.
worst chase scene I've ever seen in my
That's true.
life.
But then you watch episode 2, and you're like, it's not getting better. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna give up. Yeah.
It's,
I mean, I watched the whole thing because I simply must, because I've dedicated my life.
it's literally the. Did you watch the Drew Gooden video about Star Wars?
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Where
actually.
he's just like, okay, the thing with Andor is shit is constantly happening.
Have you seen Andor?
I haven't. I watched like I think half of the first episode.
I feel like you would actually like it.
I probably
It's the
would.
only thing I'd recommend to anyone.
But then he's like, okay, let's look at Ahsoka. Over the entire series, 6 things happen, and there's 6 episodes.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't want that for the Fast and Furious, but I also don't want what I feel like is coming for the Fast and Furious.
The thing is, I think it depends on who would be making the show.
If it's, here's... this
Also,
is so-
I do want to say this. I'm not trying to rush it. I have to piss so bad.
I do too. I don't want to sound like... Like, I feel like I'm riding his meat so hard.
Sure.
And I'm going to ride his meat even harder as we get deeper into
That's
this series.
fair. I understand.
But if it was a Justin Lin Fast and Furious show, I would be into it.
Sure.
If it is literally anyone
And if it was
else,
like HBO or something.
yeah.
It has to, because like, if it was a Disney Plus show, you know that shit's going to be shot on the volume. You know that shit's
Yeah.
going to look ugly. Like, I used to love Percy Jackson. I watched
Oh
the
my
first
God.
3 episodes and I was like, I don't know if I can. As soon as Lin-Manuel Miranda showed up, I'm like, you've lost faith. Lin-Manuel Miranda plays Hermes,
That's horrible.
the god of speed, who is allegedly the god with the most children, meaning he fucks. And he was previously cast as Nathan Fillion,
Yeah.
who is believable in that role.
so
'cause-
believable.
because that's a charismatic, kind of a little smarmy, kind of like fuckboy kind of guy. Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Before fuckboys.
Exactly. Lin-Manuel, but like he's also like attractive and charming, so you're like, I
Exactly.
kind of get it.
You're like, yeah, he...
Lin-Manuel
He could jump
Miranda,
my
you're
bones.
like, the moment he opens his mouth, I'll probably rip my ears off my head. Not because he's like got
You
a bad
can't-
voice,
you-
but just because he's Lin-Manuel Miranda. Lin, if you're listening, would love to have you on the pod.
You can't cast a theater kid as Hermes.
Exactly.
That's just not going to happen.
But,
That's
like,
not going to fly.
This is a bit of a tangent, but I mean in general, just that like Disney Plus shows, like I feel like Netflix shows, there's a certain production that you can kind of like, you recognize amongst all the Netflix shows, but at least you like the production's pretty good.
At least they shot it in a house.
Yes. Whereas like with Disney Plus shows, I'm like, all of these shows look the same.
Yeah.
And all of these shows read the same.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I was so excited for that Percy Jackson show,
Same,
and
man.
it's so bad.
Can I tell you what I'm even more excited for? To go pee. So do we want to move to what your next thing is?
So the pillars. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly because
Sure.
it's an obvious kind of pass-fail thing. Brian and Mia. Brian's in here. Mia's not. There's no real concrete love story. Like we said, there's some light flirting and then a kiss.
Yeah.
Not really.
It's
gonna
just not
give
really
much.
believable and I'm not invested in it, yeah.
Family. The family grows a little bit. There's some great side characters, but in general, it's not great.
The first one feels like a family is formed, whereas in this one it just feels like there's a brotherhood.
Yeah. So it's like the Tyrese, the Ludacris, the Suki, even though she doesn't come back.
The Tej.
These are the Tej. I said Ludacris.
Oh, sorry.
But like those are great additions, but they're not fully the characters that they're gonna be later on when it works.
Yes.
Dom, no Dom,
No Dom.
no daddy points here. Justin Lin, obviously not Justin Lin, just John Singleton, who is a great director, but I don't know. It's just Justin Lin has this kind of figured out. I think John Singleton does a great job, but he's making a Miami Vice movie a little bit more. and he's making something a little more inspired by anime, whereas Justin Lin makes something a little more like melodramatic.
It is kind of
a little more
interesting how
comedic.
like the Fast and Furious is best when it is from a specific mind, whereas the Star Wars films are best when
it's spread
the
out.
specific mind
Well-
brings in help from like, because like Irvin Kershner doing the Empire and then Richard Marquand doing like Return of the Jedi, like them being involved and like George Lucas being a part of it is when Star Wars is at its best, whereas like Fast and Furious is at its best when Justin Lin is in control.
And I should say that there are, I think...
Is it fucked up?
I think your close-up fucked up.
That's fine. The other two are good?
Yeah.
That's fine.
I should say...
I have to pee so bad, so we really got to go. It's okay.
I should say that Chris Morgan is kind
Sorry.
of the writer for Fast and Furious,
Okay.
who has done a lot of the good ones with Justin Lin. So it's not just a Justin Lin thing, but obviously Justin Lin is on set. He is like directing the action. He is giving the shots to the actors and like what they're going to do and like all this shit. So he has a bit more control, but Chris Morgan does know like kind of the psychology of the series.
Yeah.
Grounded action. The races in action are pretty good and cool. The final stunt is good. As we talked about, the races are like the races are really fun.
I think the races are more exciting in this film than the last film, but
Yeah.
I think like the races in the last film are still good, but also it succeeds elsewhere.
So I think that's like the strongest pillar of this whole thing. Then you've got like Brian who's in it, the family, that stuff. But it's like really just the one great action kind of stuff holding it up.
Yeah.
Questions. Do you have any interest in Miami?
No, it's in Florida and that's a fucked up state.
Thoughts on the Paul/Tyrese as the star of the movie?
I kind of like it. Tyrese is great as a 1B. And I feel like honestly Paul Walker does a pretty good job as 1A in this film. I do think he is best as a 1B or a 1A shared with a 1B. I just feel like, because like I feel like I'm assuming that Dom isn't always the main guy and sometimes Paul Walker's the main guy, but they kind of share it. I think regardless, I think Paul Walker does pretty well as like a shared main character. I'm not sure I would love a Paul Walker is the main character aside from the first one because it's kind of setting things up.
Yeah.
But I like them together and I think that their brotherhood is cool.
There are a couple other movies where he's like good as the main guy. Like he's in this movie called Joyride, which I think is kind of fun. It's not a great movie.
Starring Kevin Hart.
Also, yeah.
I was thinking Ride Along.
There's Brick Mansions, which is like kind of schlocky. It's like Brick Mansions is like kind of the epitome of like white male. Are you gonna piss yourself?
Yeah.
Of white male camp. We already talked about Verone. What about Paul Walker wearing khakis to bed when he's living on a boat in Miami? Just an interesting choice, right?
I just think the fact that he's living on a boat in general.
I think that's sick as fuck.
I think it's sick as fuck, but I feel like he set up that like Tyrese was living on the boat.
Tyrese was, but he was in the mobile home. And then...
But
Paul,
he set up a bunk. He went to Tej and was like, I need my boy Tyrese to get a bunk.
Tej has a bunk in his shop that Tyrese sleeps in. But then Paul has a boat off Tyrese's shop, or off Ludacris's shop that he lives in.
Okay. Next question.
Imagine if this came out when Prime Pitbull was banging him out.
Oh, he would have matched
Literally,
this vibe perfectly.
This would have been the best soundtrack in movie history if Pitbull was banging out songs when this came out.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
And now it's time to rank.
Oh, fuck. Okay, you go first. Oh, no, I go first.
You go first.
Too Fast, Too Furious?
Are you going to piss yourself?
Yeah.
We can just cut it out.
No,
if you
it's
go to the
fine. I
bathroom.
can hold
Okay.
it. And then it's going to be a really good piss. I'm fine with
Dude,
putting
these
this
drinks are hidden.
probably above. I don't know if you're going to want to put it this low, but my immediate instinct is to put it at 43 above Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, below 10 Things I Hate About You at 43.
I think it's a police story area movie.
Okay. Do you want to maybe go
It's got to be above Apollo 13 for me.
Okay, I'm fine to go above Apollo 13, below Turning Red.
Do you want me to type it in? Or you
No,
want
I'll
to
do
type it in also? I
I'll
can type it in and you can type
too
it
fast,
in at the same time.
I am amazed I am able to type at all.
Are you really like drunk right now?
I'm kind of fucked up.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't expect this shit to do this
It's
hard. Also, I kept being like,
13%.
I gotta piss so bad. Glug, 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 glug. Oh,
It's
man.
13%. You drank half the bottle.
Oh, shit, I really have.
Yeah.
Dude, I've not been this drunk in years.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
We're going to play fucking MLB after this.
Oh, I'll kill myself.
I know, but just do it already. Anyway, thank you for listening to the Too Fast, Too Furious episode of the podcast. I appreciate it. I know it's not the most famous of... You can go piss, by the way. I'll just outro this. I know it's not... That's fine. I know it's not the biggest and most famous of the Fast and Furious movies or the most popular movie at all. But if you listen to this, I hope it was a fun time. Because we've been a little unhinged today. Literally from Ohio, am I right? And Adam's going to pee. Oh no, he's peeing down his pants. Not true. Thank you for watching or listening. I appreciate it. I hope you're liking the series. I think it'll be a fun one as the year goes on. All right, I'm done. I'm glad this was a bit of a shorter episode. See you later on.